precarity is incredibly hard. If, for example, I'm sure there are lots of people here who maybe have to work 2 or 3 or more crappy jobs, and so you get home and you don't have time to spend with your family and your loved ones, and so you feel isolated, and so you don't have time to socialize, and so you become more anxious and introverted in social situations. He poses this question that there is this vast privatization of stress, right? Stress has become something that you suffer through, just you alone, individually, and we've stopped admitting that maybe the way that we are told to live and work is contributing to it. Just a quote from Capitalist Realism, how has it become acceptable that so many people, and especially so many young people, are ill? The mental health plague in capitalist societies would suggest that instead of being the only social system that works, capitalism is inherently dysfunctional, and the cost of it appearing to work is very painfully high.
Yeah. And you can't ignore so often in our discussions of mental illness in this society, in all of our societies, there's a strategic or even maybe unconscious, whatever it may be, downplaying of precisely the role that social conditions play. So if Fisher emphasizes that role, he does it to sort of push back against its complete disregard and rejection in the mainstream conversation. When it comes, and speaking for myself, I've talked about my struggles with depression. I've been hospitalized for depression in the past, and I cannot disregard the fact that my working conditions so often totally fuck me up. I mean, I work a 9 to 5 like anybody else. I work in a sort of office environment, and so often I come home after a day just completely depressed. I feel empty. I feel like my soul has been crushed. I only get to see my kids a few hours before they go to bed, and there's nobody to turn to. When I come home after just a regular day of work, I feel like I've been robbed of 8 hours of my life, and my mind is thinking about other things. I want to be working on the show. I want to be playing with my kids. I want to be hanging out with my friends, but I'm forced to do this utterly meaningless 8-hour nonsense to make somebody else rich so that I can just struggle to pay my bills every month. And the only person I have to come home to is my fiance. And she also has been either at her job or taking care of the kids all day. She's depressed. She's, totally stripped of all of her energy. And the only people we have left to rely on is one another, but we're totally beaten down. And it's just there's an article that Fisher wrote for the Occupied Times called Good for Nothing. And I just wanted to add a short quote from that article because I think it really helps illustrate his take on mental illness. He says this: for some time now, one of the most successful tactics of the ruling class has been responsibilization. Each individual member of the subordinate class is encouraged into feeling that their poverty, lack of opportunities, or unemployment is their fault and their fault alone. Individuals will blame themselves rather than social structures, which, in any case, they've been induced into believing do not really exist. They are just excuses called upon by the weak. What Smale, who's a psychologist, calls magical volunteerism, the belief that it's within every individual's power to make themselves whatever they want to be, is the dominant ideology and unofficial religion of contemporary capitalist society, pushed by reality TV experts and business gurus and US presidents, I might add, as much as by politicians. Magical volunteerism is both an effect and a cause of the currently historically low levels of class consciousness. It is the flip side of depression, whose underlying conviction is that we are all uniquely responsible for our own misery and therefore deserve it. A particularly vicious double bind is imposed on the long-term unemployed in the UK now. A population that all its life has been sent the message that it's good for nothing is simultaneously told that it can do anything it wants to do. Yeah, and speaks right to the heart of it. And then I'll respond with another reading from Fisher in Capitalist Realism. He says, and this speaks to sort of what the anti-capitalist movement can do to reframe discussions about mental illness. He says, The current ruling ontology denies any possibility of a social causation of mental illness. The chemico-biologization of mental illness is, of course, strictly commensurate with its depoliticization. Considering mental illness as an individual chemical-biological problem has enormous benefits for capitalism. First, it reinforces capital's drive towards atomistic individualization, i.e., you are sick because of your brain chemistry. Second, it provides an enormously lucrative market in which multinational pharmaceutical companies can peddle their pharmaceuticals, e.g., we can cure you with our SSRIs. It goes without saying that all mental illnesses are neurologically instantiated, but this says nothing about their causation. If it is true, for instance, that depression is constituted by low serotonin levels, what still needs to be explained is why particular individuals have low levels of serotonin. This requires a social and political explanation, and the task of repoliticizing mental illness is an urgent one if the left wants to challenge capitalist realism.
Absolutely.
So that speaks to the problems of it, how the social conditions are downplayed, and then it also opens up a window for anti-capitalists to take part in that discussion in a way that pushes back against what it rejects and what it omits and what it leaves out.
That vital struggle of politicizing what is made to seem natural.
Exactly. Just like poverty, just like war. These are things you'll constantly hear are natural. They're human nature. There's no way around them. What that does is it provides cover for the continuation of capitalism, because it suggests that the worst parts of capitalism are just not due to capitalism, but due to human nature itself. And that's something we should all be aware of and push back on whenever it comes into play.